Excuse me, could you point me in the direction of Scream City? Never mind. I think I found it.
Hello, horror freaks. Welcome back to Scream City. I'm your host, Jessica.
And I'm Monica, and today we're talking all about Saw.
Yes.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. Quite a movie.
Saw was the movie.
Saw, yeah. But before we continue on with this movie, like always, let's just start with our peak and pit. Monica, what has been your peak and pit for the past few days?
My pit, I think one that I can think of is that I tried a different flavor of coffee, like for K-Cups, and I hate it. It's absolutely awful. It's like the donut shop brand, but but the flavor that I got was glazed chocolate donut, which to me sounded great because I was like, ooh, I can mix it with like like my creamers and stuff like that. It is ass completely. And the flavors that I've done before that, like I've done like the mocha with like coconut and like the Snickers flavor. Yeah. Oh my God, to die for. I tried to be adventurous and I'm never doing that ever again.
Yeah.
So there goes that. As far as peak, I think is going to have to be, honestly, maybe watching this movie.
Okay.
This movie again brought back a lot of nostalgia in like a really good way, and it's a lot of fun. Another peak is that I bought this Oogie Boogie from Target the other day, and honestly, I've been sleeping with it for the past couple nights, and it is so cute, and it's so comfortable, and I love it.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Let's go with that. What about yours?
Pit will probably be that I didn't finish an exam for a class. Okay. And for me, I have I need academic validation. And for me to not finish an exam is just like, I feel disappointed not only in myself, but I'm like, dang, I can just feel the disappointment in my professor. You know what I mean? My peak, which Monica just got a peek of it, was that I got a new vehicle.
Yeah.
And I am very excited.
Yeah.
So we are grown-ups.
We're moving up.
To be fair, this is my first big girl purchase. Yeah. I like to think.
I mean, a car is a pretty big purchase.
100%.
It's a very adult-like purchase.
Very much. But yeah. Anyway.
But finally getting into this movie. So like we mentioned in every episode, there will be spoilers. So don't say that we didn't warn you. Now, just to give a brief synopsis of this movie. So two men, Dr. Gordon and Adam, wake up in a room with no memory of how they got there. They soon discover that they are pawns to a twisted game orchestrated by a notorious serial killer named Jigsaw. Jigsaw forces his victims to confront their own moral failings and make impossible choices in order to survive.
Yep.
This movie, finish it for me, was a movie.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And you were like, where are you going with this one?
Yeah.
This movie was a movie.
Yes.
That's my first impression.
100%. No, and like obviously we'll get into it, but genuinely, I really like this movie.
Oh, I love this movie. Okay. And we're definitely going to get into that later, but now
that we have the quick brief synopsis out of the way, Monica, what was your first impression watching this film for the first time, and what would you say is your favorite scene and kill?
With first impression for this movie, I do actually remember watching it for the first time. I watched it with my brother-in-law and my sister. The only thing I can't remember is if my mom was there or not, because my mom was at a lot of our movie nights. She joined in a lot, and we watched a lot of horror movies. So my mom is also not the type of Mexican mom that like shies away from the horror. If anything, she enjoys it, but she's definitely more of a drama girly. Like she loves.
My mom.
She lives for the drama.
Turkish novelas.
Oh yeah, anything that has to do with drama, yelling, like scandals. My mom lives for it, and so some horror movies have a little bit of that. She likes like the psychological thrillers because she's like the one movie that me and her watched together once was Mama. Oh my God, my mom was like she loved it so much, and she thought it was such a beautiful story, and I was like, I mean, it is, but anyway, but I do remember being scared and completely grossed out. But then just to find out, by the gore, but just to find out that I actually wanted more. Yeah. In some other films later when I discovered more of horror. Favorite scene. So I have two. I like Amanda's scene where she begins to tell her story, and I think it's just because of the reverse bear trap, and I just think it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like a cool concept, you know?
Do you remember that girl that dressed up as her at the convention last year?
I did, yes.
I remember
Yeah.
I told her because we were waiting in line to get in together, and I was like, dude,
Your
sick.
cosplays, like costume, it was
Absolutely.
really fucking
Yeah.
cool. I think that's like another thing is that it's kind of iconic,
100%,
like
yeah.
the reverse bear trap, and I think it's really cool. But I also really love the ending. So I like, you know, the reveal of everything, but I sort of like how it was revealed. That John was the mastermind behind everything. So I remember when I watched it for the first time, I had no idea. One, because John, he's not a main character until they show him as the main character at the very end. So
Right.
he's kind of just in the background, and you don't even really see him, obviously, like his face.
Right.
So you kind of don't think of him as a suspect. But two, I was also like 8 or 9. So I didn't have a lot of like experience of foreshadowing and like
Right.
looking at specific details. But I just love how he like gets up after Dr. Gordon leaves, and then he peels off the prosthetic, and it was like, yup, I've been alive this whole time. I've been watching you in this room. The camera is mostly just for recording and funs and giggles for me, but I've been in the room with you this entire time.
So crazy.
I think
Oh my
that's
God.
also like scary.
100%.
Like thinking that someone in the room is dead, and then you're kind of
Which-
like, I have to kill him.
I was planning on talking about this a little bit more with mine. My thing is like, if I personally, I would probably
Personally?
like use my foot to turn him around and be like, well, I want to know who it was.
I
or-
also, yeah, like also I want to make sure you're dead. Like, to be fair, your splattered brains look pretty realistic. And I hope you're dead. But I now have another trust issue, like another thing to look out for
Absolutely.
and things like that. So, but kill. So aside from how the first few victims died, like, so how we get sort of a flashback of how the guy who walked through barbed wire and then the other man who lit himself on fire in his room or in that room, I think those were pretty good kills. I think just Jigsaw's ideas for killing are like really interesting. I also, because there was a line that stuck with me because he was like, one of the detectives was like, I mean, he's technically not a killer because he gets these people to like kill themselves.
Right.
Obviously, there's like a whole loophole as to being like, I'm sure he's like an accessory to murder and things like that because this is a bit immoral. But like, it's true because he's not physically doing anything to these people, but he's driving them to their death. So it's like sad, but it's like interesting, you know, to be that crazy. I do like how Detective Steven dies, though. Like, with the trigger of the gun.
Yes.
I assume that his head gets blown off, but we don't see it. We just
Right.
see, like, a bunch of blood just gushing down his suit. And I think that's, like, really cool. Because, again, it's, like, another type of, like, interesting trap that he created.
Nice.
What about you?
So funny enough, how you say you do remember watching this for the first time. I do not.
Yeah.
Could not tell you when I watched this movie for the first time. But I do know is that I watched it very young. And listen, I'm not complaining because it built character.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah,
Built
same.
character. I'm sure like I was pretending to be asleep while my older siblings were watching it or something like that. I don't know, but I love this movie. And I think
do
I've
too.
said this before about other movies, but I think this may be one of the first movies to introduce me to gore.
Yeah.
And like obviously me being like super young, like yes, it grossed me out and like I would definitely flinch and look away. But I just thought it was just very interesting overall.
I do think that the movies get worse with the gore in the best way, obviously, but I think the first one obviously is just so iconic because it
Classic.
introduces you as the where am I going with this? It's just like with any other franchise or series, like your first movie is always going to be the best that introduces you to the rest of them. Sometimes a series can get worse, sometimes it can be just as good. So it
Right.
just really depends on where you stand. But I think for Saw specifically, like I think they saw how people reacted to the gore and then they kind of just went with that. But I think what I love about the first Saw is like the storyline too. It's honestly, to me, it's so good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So again, I can't recall the first day that I watched it, but I don't doubt that it did scare me. I mean, come on. I was also like, what, 8 or 9?
Yeah.
My favorite scene you already said this, but definitely for me, it's the very last scene where Adam picks up, I think it's like a recorder, and Jigsaw stands up in the middle of the room. Chills.
100%.
Literal chills.
Because not only that, like, you think it's over. Sort of. Like, he's still attached to the chain.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dr. Gordon had to go and find help or whatever, supposedly. But I think that's, like, what the worst feeling that you can get is being traumatized for so many hours and feeling almost hopeless at some points. And then at the end, you get a glimpse of hope because you're like, okay, all right, now I just have to find a way to get out of here because we think that the person that was behind everything is dead.
For sure.
Just to find out it's not over.
Dude.
So.
No. It's just the way that we see him start to stand up in the background.
Yeah, he gets very like...
Oh my God. Oh, like, it's giving the yellow wallpaper where she, like, crawls around the room. Like, if you've read the story. Yeah. Like, it's oh my God.
I mean, he also gets up very...
just, like,
old
so...
manish. Like,
yeah. So creepy.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah, it is a good scene.
Yeah,
it's a really good one.
It literally left me in shock. Because I can probably like picture my face. I was like,
I think it's also good because it's
factor.
sort of shock factor, but it's also, it leaves you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, so you're kind of expecting a second movie.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the movies that end that way are really cool.
Personally, obviously I love the Saw franchise, but I think it would have been very cool to leave it at that.
Yeah.
And just like leave the discourse open for...
I think that would have been cool
or
too.
whatever, yeah.
But here we are, like, what, 7, 8 movies later?
Yeah. My favorite kill, this is hard because they were all pretty damn good.
They were.
They were. I think you mentioned these two. But I think my favorite, or the one that I like the most, is Detective Singh. His just kind of came out of nowhere. And was, if I may, it was mind-blowing.
Okay. Yeah.
She got jokes.
There you go. So we have the same like favorite scene and kill because they were pretty good.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, they were pretty good. And also, I like anything with a trap, which, I mean, to be fair, all of them are traps, but
I think it's like the idea of being like, can they make it through it?
Yeah.
And then keeping you on edge and then being like, oh no, he's not gonna survive that.
And it's scary because, I mean, and I know these type of traps exist in the real world.
They
but
do.
That little like line, that little string or whatever that you like, you know, you touch with your leg, and oh my God,
100%.
So scary. So I like that one, and I also really do like the barbed wire one.
Yeah. See, I don't know what it is. I think it's I think it's scary to think about because the reason that he did that trap was because he found out that he was, I guess, like cutting himself on purpose. Yeah. And so he was like, are you trying to have results from this or are you trying to get attention? Well, today you're going to show me. Yeah. And I'm like, that is so terrifying. No, that is terrifying to think about. So I think, but like what I also really like, I think about like the flashback scenes, and we kind of get it towards the end too, is when everything is sped up and like very like, and I think it looks so cool. I like the vibe. The retro-ness of it, kind of.
It's like really cool. The early 2000s film.
It really is. The filter. The filter. Yeah. The filter on this film is pretty great, and I think like you can tell by like a lot of, and this isn't just for horror films specifically, but I feel like it also goes for like some dramas, like things like that. Like
it's giving Twilight.
The editing style and the filters and a lot of that, and I think it's very Y2K-esque. Yeah. So it's great.
For sure.
I was watching this for the first time, and not for the first time, I'm sorry. I watched this a few nights ago, and I was still so like intrigued by the movie. I thought I was in a place where I could put this movie in the background and look up every once in a while and be like, I know what's happening. I did. But I thought this was a movie that I can have in the background, but no, I was still so like focused on watching this movie because I needed to know what happened next.
100%.
So I think it's do you think this movie would do well now?
100. Yes.
I think so too.
Yes.
I think
because if people like Terrifier,
that's true.
well,
At least for as well as it did. I think so.
If people liked Terrifier for the gore, they would definitely like Saw. If it came out.
100%. And what I think is like, I think what this movie does well, what it did well back then, what I think would still do well today is like the gore, the anticipation of everything, the like I think the plot to this movie is very villain and very Joker like, if that makes sense. 100%. Because that's all that Jigsaw wanted to do. He was like, I'm literally so tired of people complaining that they like about the smallest things in their life when there's people out here with like
bigger
serious
issues.
And don't get me wrong, like I still
like
have
cancer.
the ideology that like don't ever don't ever minimize your own problems to compare them to other people's huge problems. But that was like his thing. And so I think people would find, some controversy in that. But I also think that the plot of the movie would still do really well, like today.
I think so too.
But with a little bit of better editing.
Yeah. Because
even? I don't know. Because I like the little retro flashbacks.
I like that. I don't doubt that like, obviously
some people would hate on it.
Well, if it was made, now, I don't even know. I don't even know what to expect if it would be made now.
Yeah. Too many people have too many, like...
Too many people.
I get you.
Who would you cast as Dr. Gordon and Adam?
Oh my fucking gosh. I don't know. I feel like they both did really well. And they're both really big now.
They are.
Like, they're still... maybe not in their prime, but, like, they're still, out there and doing a lot of stuff.
And I don't know if I'm saying this just because, but I think Patrick Wilson would be a really good Dr. Gordon. Right?
Patrick Wilson, Dr. Gordon?
Maybe? Who would be Adam? Well, I guess
I think Patrick Wilson would do good as Adam. I don't know. There's something about seeing Patrick Wilson in panic.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Gordon throughout the film was more like, not reserved, but he was more like...
Like, this ain't gonna happen. Like, this isn't real.
Like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
That man was so disassociated.
But honestly, he just like me.
He just like me for real. But I really do like that he was like... I mean, he kind of used his doctor brain a bit and was like, you kind of have to outsmart the smart. So you have to think of every possible situation. Yeah. You have to think that, like, if you've thought of it, then they've thought of it. Mm-hmm. Type of, And then he was like, it's because that's how you beat and kill a disease or whatever. Or discover. And then I'm like, that's true. But you're a little too level-headed for me. Yeah. I need the panic. Since we're kind of talking about, like, people in the movie, do you want to kind of start us off with, like, the cast and stuff?
So just to name a few people, of course, if you listen to our last episode, Freddy vs. Jason, we brought this person that I'm about to say up a bit, but of course we have James Wan as the director.
Yeah.
And in the last episode we were talking about how he was busy with Saw, but what was it, Monica? He
was supposed to direct or produce Freddy vs. Jason, right? But supposedly he was already committed to Saw, doing Saw, which Saw came out, I think the same year or the year after that Freddy vs. Jason did.
It was the year after.
Because 2004 and then Freddy vs. Jason was 2003.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I can see why.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's what the internet says. Who knows?
Right. So yeah, James Wan as the director, Carrie Ulwis. I never learned how to pronounce his name. Lee Winnell, which love that man. Mm-hmm. Danny Glover, Ken Leung, Shawnee Smith, love you, girly. Michael Emerson. So just to name a few.
I think all of these people, like I said earlier, two off the top of my head that we were kind of discussing earlier before we started was like these two men are still doing things to this day. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people maybe don't realize them if they don't really pick up with like a lot of these things.
Lee is, because I watched Saw so young,
mm-hmm.
Obviously, I wasn't thinking about actors. I was just thinking about the movie in general.
He doesn't look the same as when he did on Saw.
Yeah, but now that I watched Insidious older,
yeah,
I'm talking about Lee, by the way. But when I watched Insidious older, I was like, wait, I know this guy.
So him and James Wan have worked together in previous projects together too. So that's really cool.
We love that. Lee is also, I think, I mainly know him from Insidious and Saw, of course. But I think he was on Bye Bye Man. Bye Bye Man and Cooties.
Cooties.
Oh my God, y'all. That movie is so good. If y'all have not watched it, you need to. It has Rainn Wilson in it. Elijah Wood. Lee. It's just amazing. But we're not talking about Cooties right now. But it is on the list.
Yes.
But yeah, Lee has done some amazing stuff. Anyway.
And Carrie Ilwis too. He was more of like his prime time, I think, was the early 2000s, as most of these actors are and actresses. He was obviously in Saw. The most recent thing that I think we see him, well, sort of, is he's the mayor in Stranger Things.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the mayor in Stranger Things, so we get to see him in there. He was also like in a Christmas movie in like 2021.
Yes.
But he was in big time movies also, like Liar Liar with James Carrey. He's in Twister. Have you seen Twister?
I have.
The tornado movie.
He's on The Crush, which y'all.
He is on The Crush.
Y'all, that movie fucked me up.
Yeah.
All right, so now to get into the facts. We thought it would be kind of like a fun idea to try this new thing that we're about to, explain. But instead of looking them up ahead of time, we are going to check IMDb right now. And Monica and I will give our opinion on how true or untrue the fact seems. It being IMDb, like, I feel like I do trust it, but I,
for the most part,
don't trust it at the same time.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Because I feel like obviously with Wikipedia, anybody can edit that. So that it's like the most ridiculous things.
So
I already found one that seems very like, okay, I can definitely see how that's a thing.
Yeah.
But it's like the trivia one where it's like, in order to make the actors feel what the actors were going through, or the characters were going through, all of the bathroom scenes were shot in chronological order. Which is scary, because if you're shooting them in chronological order and you don't really know what the end result is supposed to be, then I feel like method acting might come into play a little bit.
But maybe they like read the script beforehand and they knew
obviously
going on.
Well, I guess that makes sense. But I think reading and actually doing are like very different.
That's true, because I mean, unless they had to do a retake already, at least Lee watching Tobin get up in that creepy manner.
And like the fact that like in acting, again, I don't know if it's just the acting or what it was, but like he didn't have like a jump scare reaction. It was like a shock reaction. Like, cause he did not move and he just watched this man get up.
Ew.
So slow. And I think that's what makes it worse.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's another reason why this movie hits. Right.
Okay. Another one on the list that I would like to mention is director James Wan wanted the camera movements to reflect the two main characters' emotions and personality. He filmed Dr. Gordon with steady, controlled shots and Adam as handheld shots to capture their emotions of the situation.
I hope that's true, because I feel like
I do believe it's true. I'm gonna say it's true to all.
I think that's true, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that's more of like if you see it in the movie, then you're going to want to believe it, right?
Right.
But I think that's actually really interesting. I like how
I guess I hadn't noticed before, but maybe knowing this now, if I were to when I rewatch it, I'll
kind of pay more attention to it, right?
Yeah.
I think and I because I literally just watched this movie last night. Like we were kind of talking about before, like their demeanors to the situation were kind of different. They did have a little, to kind of bring it up a little bit sidetrack here. I was watching it last night, and when I finished it, Dr. Gordon and Adam had a little bit of a gay moment. Did you catch that? Literally at the very end, when he's like grabbing onto him, he's like, "Please don't leave me inches."
They are my modern day, like
Inches away from kissing.
Dude, no, it was I mean,
like, obviously, don't get us wrong, like we're obviously reaching and stretching for, you know, to be funny, but it's like the funniest thing. She's like, I'm not. I just think it's like the funniest thing because it's like you're in a moment of desperation, and so they all of a sudden get really close, like obviously physically, but connection wise, because they're like, we just went through something so traumatic and we're literally at the tail end of it. I just need to go get help. But we know damn well that man did not make it 6 feet out the door without bleeding to death. But it was like the desperation that was coming from Adam, like, please don't leave me. He was like grasping onto his shirt, and it was like the saddest thing, but it was also like, ooh. And it was like the funniest thing.
Yeah. And then the last two on here that we would like to mention is, okay, according to the DVD commentary, director James Wan stated that many of the scare scenes in the film were nightmares he and Lee had as kids.
You know what? I'm going to say, well, I feel like I did hear that. I guess maybe like fact somewhere, but I also feel like I hear this fact a lot from a lot of different producers or directors, and I feel like that's how a lot of people get their ideas. So I don't know how much I want to believe this one, because it could be maybe like the base of like, hey, I had a dream about this, and then obviously like something as small as an idea turns into something a lot more. But I'm just like, I feel like I hear this one too often that I want to say it's untrue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel that. And the last little fun fact is that Saw 2, the one that came out in 2005, was approved for production the weekend this film opened.
Holy shit. And that's how you know.
That's how you know.
That's how you know. Whether it was getting bad reviews but made a lot of money, you know, that's also kind of telling. Because people will pay to watch a bad movie just to give a review. Yeah. So, good for them.
And I guess it's also important to mention that James Wan created and built himself Billy.
Yeah. And I mean, also, we don't know how true that is. And I want to say that that's true because that would be really cool. But I also feel like, for the sake of being different, I'm going to say that fact is untrue.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm... That's where I'm at now.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You get canceled. I'm just kidding.
I'm just a hater. All right, let's move a little bit forward.
Yeah. Now moving along with the episode, I think it's a safe time or an appropriate time to play a little Would You Rather? Yeah. So, based again on this first film, this Would You Rather is going to be a little dark. Of course, what else do you expect? So, would you rather hurt someone severely enough to leave permanent damage on them in order to save yourself, or hurt yourself in a severe way?
Yeah.
In order to help another person, but this other person is not someone you know. It's a total stranger.
See, I feel like this is sort of where like morals start to actually kick in, because like slashers are different, you know. It's kind of like save yourself, move on.
Right.
I feel like that can also work for this scenario, but it's more of like putting two strangers in front of each other to see who will go the extra length for survival, right?
Yeah.
And see who would be like, no, like I'm already in a, you know, shit place in my life. I kind of don't want to do it anymore type of mentality, you know? So it's really hard. Me personally, I'm hurting someone.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I won't be honest with you. It's going to have to depend on my mental state on when they catch me.
I guess we could say for that second one, for the second one, you would have to hurt yourself in order to help the other person, because the other person is in danger, which I mean, I guess it's kind of like already in the question, but
see, yeah. I have so much distrust, like even with people I know, you know, like I have trust issues 100%. So I can't imagine if I was in the setting where I was in a room with a complete stranger and I had to guess whether they were being truthful with me or not. And I think that's like the worst anxiety driven type of scenario for me. I would like to say that I would want to help someone else and that I'd be like, it's okay, I'll sacrifice my foot. But I don't know.
Nah.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I would definitely hurt someone.
You would hurt someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like, Dr. Gordon just shat.
He shot.
He shat out blood, bro. He shot Adam, but Adam didn't die.
Yeah.
I also don't know if he actually shot him. So you would hurt someone?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Well, see, and then get this. So, like, if I were to hurt someone else and then I were to survive, then I can go and get help. I know where my intentions lie.
100%.
I don't know where their intentions lie.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I was going to say, I mean, if you and I were in that room.
100% saving
I would
myself.
hurt you.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, saving myself, hurting you.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. Like, I'm gonna ask for help.
I don't think you are.
I would go get some help.
I'm not confident I trust you.
Well, see, that's even worse. Being in a room with someone you know, or say, would you rather be trapped in a room with someone you know, or someone you don't know?
Someone I don't know, so that I can tell them my life story all over again. Yeah.
Your most traumatic life story.
Yeah.
That way they can, like, sacrifice
Feel
themselves
sympathy
for you.
or whatever.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay. Well, I think it's time for us to go ahead and rate this movie.
Yes.
So kind of going towards the end of our episode here. So for this movie, it is a horror movie. So we will be using both of our scales, our scary scale and our satisfactory scale. Just because a movie is scary doesn't always mean it's good. So, and vice versa. So Jessica, start us off with your rating.
Absolutely. So scary,
Absolutely.
scary scale for me, scary scale,
8.5
out of 10.
Okay.
8.5 out of 10.
Good.
I really, really like this movie.
I do too.
And kind of like you mentioned, to me, I do consider it a comfort film. Mm-hmm. Because I think now I'm at a point in my life mentally where I can
I'm just so fucked. Like, this doesn't even faze me.
Yeah,
anymore.
where I can watch a movie and it just not, you know, obviously I still feel shit when I watch it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a psycho. But I think I can watch it comfortably. Does that make sense?
Right,
like,
right.
But it's overall a really good film, and I'm really glad I watched it whenever I did or whatever. But yeah, I really like it.
Love.
Oh, wow. Wait, this was me talking about scary, not satisfactory.
Not satisfactory.
Yeah, no. Okay, scary, yes, 8.5 out of 10. Very scary.
Scary.
Very gory, gruesome.
Love.
But not just like that, but it's the psychological part.
Oh, this movie
Especially,
definitely psychological.
especially when Jigsaw gets up.
Yep.
That shit chills.
Well, not just that, but like how the whole story wraps around in
Yeah.
itself at the end.
At
Like,
the
it's
end.
very like mind fucking because
Yeah.
you're like, damn,
Yeah.
this man going through it.
And then, of course, satisfactory for me, I think 9 out of 10, of course. Just overall, very good movie.
Okay. Honestly, same. My scary scale is also an 8 out of 10. When I rewatched this, I was also drinking coffee. So a lot of the anxiety came from coffee and the movie. So I was just so hyped at the end of it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, but scary is still very like, I think for the same reason. I didn't feel uncomfortable watching it, but I was still very like, oh my God. When it's the scene every time he cuts through his leg.
Mm-hmm. Would you cut your...
See, I was thinking about that when I was literally watching the movie last night. And it's hard. Because one, do I have enough money to go to the doctor if I survive this? Two, I also have to think about what happened to Dr. Gordon, which was completely bleed out. That man was translucent by the end of it.
Was.
Like, no color to his face whatsoever. Don't know what type of makeup they used to make him look even more pale. But that's also pretty scary to think about. So, I don't know. Would you?
No.
No? You're keeping your foot?
Yeah, I'm keeping my foot.
But satisfactory scale for me is a 10 out of 10. This movie is like great to me. So,
Nice.
I love it.
Well, I think we are getting close to the end.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to everyone listening. And if you're a new horror freak joining us for the first time, welcome. And we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And of course, feel free to follow us on social media. We will have everything linked in the description below. And okay, influencer.
Okay, influencer, YouTuber.
We will have links to everything in the description of the episode.
Yes. And as we always say, thank you for tuning in and listening to us. We can't stress enough how much we appreciate your support. So, make sure to tell all of your horror freaks and your family and any type of stranger that you see about us. That way we can just keep growing the horror community, because it's always fun to interact with you guys. So, we also love receiving and reading your messages about your thoughts and opinions on every episode that we've done. And it honestly just feels really great to be able to know that we can connect with you guys in like just the smallest ways of just a message. So it feels good.
Yeah.
Now, if you did like this episode, make sure to tune in to next week's episode where we talk about the newer film, Knock at the Cabin. I'm excited to talk about that one. So Jess has already seen it. I have not, but I do plan on going this week to go watch it. I've heard mixed reviews. Same. So we're going to have to discuss and see. And I think, if I'm right, I mean, it's a Night Shyamalan movie, so it's more of a psychological thriller than it is a horror.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. It fucked me up.
I'm excited. And
guess what? It was a movie.
Oh my god, I love that. We're putting that on a t-shirt.
We sure are. Yeah.
We're putting that on a t-shirt.
There are some movies that are not movies.
There's some movies that don't be moving.
They don't be moving. No, ma'am. But this movie.
This movie was moving?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. I will take that in with me when I go watch it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But anyway, I think this concludes the episode. Again, as always, thank you for listening. We've been your hosts, Jessica
and Monica.
Stay safe
and stay spooky.
I want to play a game.
Oof, that was scary. I can't wait to come back next week.